Hello students, this is Mr. Damiani and today we're going to be looking at video lesson 8.6 which is located on page 451 of your chapter 8 Go Math workbook. The topic for today's lesson is solve multiplication and division equations. So we're going to work with trying to find the solutions to multiplication and division, and we've already worked with addition and subtraction. So we're just going to wrap up the other half of the equation world. So the central question is, how do you solve multiplication and division equations? And we should already have an idea of that answer, really. When we get into solving multiplication and division equations, or any equations, then we're always going to want to focus on inverse operations, doing the opposite of what we see within that expression. So we have a division property of equality, which means you can divide on both sides of an equation. And there's going to be a multiplication property of equality, which you'll see here shortly, which means you can multiply on both sides of an equation. All right, let's get to work, shall we? Unlock the problem here. Please follow along as I read. Me ran 14 laps around a track for a total of 4,200 meters. The equation of 14d equals 4,200 can be used to find the distance d in meters she ran in each lap. Solve the equation and explain what the solution means. All right, so we're going to solve the multiplication equation. In order to do that, let's first identify what operation is indicated by 14d. And hopefully, you know, between the coefficient and the variable, that hidden operation of multiplication is in there. So please write that in. Thank you. So there is multiplication in there. And let's solve the problem. So let's take a peek here. Solve the multiplication equation. To get d by itself, you must undo the multiplication by 14. Dividing by 14 is the inverse operation, like that right there, of multiplying by 14. So we have our equation, 14d equals 4,200. You're going to see this looks a lot like the second step of our proportion solving, where we always ended up with a number and a variable equal to something. So we're going to use division on both sides. We're going to divide by 14 on both sides because I want to get that d all by itself. So what that means is 14 divided by 14 cancels, and then 4,200 divided by 14 gives us 300. So that means d equals 300. Now, in order to check our solution, we're going to drop that value of 300 into our original equation to see if we get 4,200. So we're going to substitute 300 in for d. Here's my equation right here that we're working with. We're going to replace d with 300, so 14 times 300 should equal 4,200. You get off on the side, you do the calculation, whatever you got to do. Put it in the calculator. Oh, sorry about that. I wrote the wrong thing up there. I meant that 14. My fault there, folks. So you could take 300 times the 14 and really check to see if you get 4,200. All right, we got 0, 0, 12. Drop it down, 0, 0, 3. Add that up, and you'll notice we get 4,200. And our answer checks out, which means 4,200 equals 4,200. And that means the solution of me ran 300 meters is appropriate for our equation. All right, so that's a little bit of a review skill, some stuff we have done in the past. See multiplication, do division. The new stuff's going to appear on the next page. So let's go ahead and take a look at the example located on the top of page 552. All right, so we're going to solve this equation. 2/3 n equals 1/4. Now the different thing here is we do have we do have a fraction coefficient, and I don't want you to worry about this changing our process. Our process is going to really remain the same. All right, so what operation is in between the 2/3 and the end? Well, that's multiplying. So we're multiplying n by 2/3. So we want to divide both sides by 2/3. All right, so really what we're using is the division property of equality. So we're going to take that 2/3 n and we're going to divide it by 2/3. Now what we would do if we wanted to make it look like we did on the previous page here, I'm just going to show you something here real quick. You could just really divide by 2/3 on both sides of that as well. It looks different, I know. You say, well, why do we have a fraction on the top and the bottom? But you can have fraction numerators and you can have fraction denominators, so it's not that crazy. But then you can see that that does cancel out. Then you're going to be left with n equals whatever 1/4 is divided by 2/3. All right, so you can do it that way. So now I have, back down here, please. We have 2/3 n divided by 2/3 on that side. I'm going to divide by 2/3 on this side. We're going to keep changing flip to take care of this division here. And when we do that, we really get 1/4 times 3/2. And we're going to get n equals 3, right? Because we get 3/8. So really we get n equals 3/8. All right. Again, reviewing our fraction process. But the whole goal here is to just really solidify that equation solving process, which is always completing the inverse operation. So we see 2/3 times n here. We're going to divide by 2/3. Done. And you just take care of those, that process. Let's go down here to example 2 here. Again, this is the multiplication property, multiplying both sides by the same number. This is a little different. We've been dividing on both sides, but now you can multiply on both sides. So if you have something like this, like I'm showing, this is just showing this here, you can really multiply both sides by 4 here to get that to balance out. All right, looking at how I wrote that down is important because I'm going to show you that down here in example 2. All right, so a biologist divides a water sample equally among 8 test tubes. Each test tube contains 24.5 milliliters of water. Write and solve an equation to find the volume of water sample. We got to write and solve. 2 things here. Don't let it blow your mind. Let's just take it one step at a time. We're going to take care of the right first here. So a biologist divides, there's key term there. We know we're dividing, a water sample equally, all right, among 8 test tubes. So really we're dividing by 8. Well, what are you dividing by 8? You're dividing the water sample. We're not sure what that water sample is. All right, so we're going to let it equal V. So it says write an equation, let V represent the volume in milliliters. So if you take that, what you have there, we're dividing a V divided by 8, and that's going to equal the 24.5, which is in each test tube. All right. So we have the equation V over 8 equals 24.5. In order to solve that, we're going to use the multiplication property of equality. This means we're going to multiply both sides. Well, what do you multiply by? You always multiply by the number that's attached to the variable because you're trying to undo the divided by 8. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to multiply by 8. So I have V over 8. I'm going to multiply the left by 8 and the right by 8. I see divided by 8, so I got to multiply by 8 on both sides. Well, this 8 this 8 times V over 8 ends up canceling those 8's out, and you're left with V. Then you got to get over on the side. You got to perform your 24.5 times 8. So you work that out on the side. You're going to get an answer of 196. And what that means is the volume of the water sample is 196 milliliters. So I'm going to review this a little bit for you here because I really want you to see this. So take a look up here in blue. We had V over 8, and we set it equal to 24.5. Well, we identified that we have division for our equation, so now we're going to multiply. What are we going to multiply? I'm going to multiply by the number that I want to get rid of that's attached to the V because I want V by itself. So I'm going to multiply by 8 on the left. And if I multiply by 8 on the left, I have to multiply by 8 on the right. You have to balance it out with an equation. when you're solving equations. You got to, if you do something on one side, you got to do something on the other. 8 divided by 8 is like a top and a bottom here. So we're gonna cancel those out, and we're gonna multiply by 8 on that side. So you're left with v equals 196. All right, let's turn and practice a little bit here. I want you to go ahead and turn the page. We're looking at page 453, the share and show. What I want you to do right now is go ahead and circle question 2 here. You're going to solve and check, meaning you're going to solve the equation, then I want you to check your solution. I'm going to fill in my work here. I want you to pause the video. I want you to complete that question and then check your work with mine. Pause it up. All right, you're going to notice that I rewrote my equation, divided both sides by 3 because I saw 3 times x, so I divide by 3 on both sides. I got x equals 70. I substituted that 70 back into my original equation to see if I could get my equation to balance out at 210, and I did. So that means I circled up x equals 70. All right, let's go down and actually go ahead and pause the video and complete question 4. I want to see how you do with that fraction coefficient. If you're unsure what to do, turn back a page, take a peek at it. All right, pause it up. All right, thanks for pausing the video here. I wanted to walk you through question 4 just to make sure that we're all on the same page here. So I noticed that I have 1/3 n equals 15. What I actually want to do is that's 1/3 times n, so I want to divide both sides by 1/3. So if I divide by 1/3 here, and I divide by 1/3 here, these 1/3s actually cancel, just like the 3's did in the question 2. That leaves me with n equals. Now what I have to do is I have to actually get over here and perform that division. Keep, change, flip. 15 over 1 times 3 over 1 gives me an answer of 45 over 1, which means n equals 45. If I wanted to check that work, I want to take that 45 and multiply it by 1/3, and that should give me 15. All right, so the check would look like this. Should equal 15. Do some reducing here. 15 over 1 equals 15. So that does check out. That answer is correct. All right, so that's both types that we worked with our multiplication equations. What I would like you to do now is try to tackle question 6 down below here. Go back, look at the previous example, pause the video, complete question 6, and I'll check your work with mine. Thank you. All right, I rewrote my equation. My thought process is this. I have a divided by 5 equals 25. So if I know I'm dividing by 5, then I want to multiply by 5. So I'm going to multiply by 5 on this side, and I'm going to multiply by 5 on this side. Balancing act. Now, my top and bottom's 5 that are 5s, those cancel. That leaves me with a equals. Then I have to get in and say, okay, 5 times 25. That's going to be 125, so I put that here. I think a is 125. Now, if I want to check that work, I'm going to say, okay, here's 25 equals a over 5, which is 25 equals 125 divided by 5. Just substituting in there, all right? And I know 5 goes into 125, 25 times, so 25 equals 25. That cancels. We're good. Okay, so I'm not going to assign any independent problems for you to work on. What I would like you to do, though, is really make sure that you have some good examples from our work together in your summary for lesson 8.6. All right, make sure you write a good, strong question, include these steps, great, a few examples, talk about those equality properties, and you'll be good to go. All right, thanks for taking the time to watch the video. I hope everybody has a fantastic weekend, and goodbye.